Picture this. It's early morning. The house is quiet. You haven't eaten anything yet. And you step outside and start walking. Nothing feels particularly dramatic about that moment. The air is cool. Your muscles are warming up slowly. Your breathing is easy. From the outside, it looks like any ordinary walk. But inside your body, something very specific is happening. Something that doesn't happen when you walk after breakfast. Something that doesn't happen when you exercise in the afternoon. A quiet biological shift, triggered by the exact combination of fasting overnight and moving your body, that targets the most stubborn fat your body carries. This is rarely explained properly. And once you understand it, the way you think about morning walks will never be quite the same. And most people believe that fat burns more or less the same way, no matter when you exercise. That movement is movement, that calories burned are calories burned. And that if you walk enough and eat less, belly fat will eventually come off like everything else. That belief is understandable. It's also incomplete. And the gap between what most people believe and what is actually happening inside the body during a fasted walk. That gap is the reason so many people exercise consistently and still find that abdominal fat holding on. Your belly fat isn't being stubborn out of spite. It's being protected by your own biology. And there's a very specific key that unlocks it. Stay with me, because this is where it gets interesting. The key is a hormone you've almost certainly heard of. Insulin. But not in the way it's usually discussed. Insulin isn't just about diabetes or sugar. It is the single most powerful signal your body uses to decide at any given moment whether it is storing energy or releasing it, whether it is building reserves or drawing from them, whether the door to your fat cells is locked or open. When insulin is present, even in moderate amounts, fat burning slows dramatically. Not because anything is broken, but because your body is intelligent. It received a signal that food is available, so it organizes that fuel, distributes it, stores what isn't immediately needed. That's insulin doing exactly what it was designed to do. But here's the part that changes everything. When you wake up in the morning after a full night of sleep, your insulin is at the lowest point it will be all day. You haven't eaten for 7, 8, 9 hours. Your blood sugar has been gently declining overnight. Your stored carbohydrates, the quick access fuel your body keeps in your liver and muscles called glycogen, have been gradually depleted while you slept, keeping your brain and organs running through the night. By the time your alarm goes off, your body is sitting at a threshold. Glycogen is low. Insulin is minimal. The biological machinery that breaks down stored fat, enzymes called hormone-sensitive lipase, are beginning to stir. Your body is already looking toward fat as its next available fuel. And if you walk out the door right now, before eating, before anything that raises insulin, you step directly into that window. You might not feel it dramatically, but your body notices it immediately. Inside your fat cells, those lipase enzymes begin breaking apart stored triglycerides, the form fat is stored in, into smaller molecules called free fatty acids. These fatty acids get released into your bloodstream. They travel to your working muscles. Your muscles begin burning them. This process is called lipolysis, and it has one quality that matters enormously for belly fat specifically. The fat that sits deep in your abdomen, called visceral fat, has a higher concentration of receptors for the fat-releasing hormones that rise during fasted movement than the fat just under your skin does. In practical terms, visceral belly fat is more hormonally responsive, more willing to release, more reactive to the exact conditions a fasted morning walk creates. Your belly fat isn't the hardest fat to lose. In the right hormonal environment, it can actually be among the most responsive. Have you ever gone for a morning walk before eating and noticed something slightly different about how your body felt? A particular clarity, a warmth that seemed to come from somewhere deep rather than just your skin. I sense that something was quietly happening, even if you couldn't name it. That feeling is real. That is your body running a process it was designed to run, a process that most people, through no fault of their own, have simply never deliberately activated. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever walked fasted in the morning and noticed your body felt different? I'd love to hear your experience. And if you enjoy understanding the quiet science that is happening inside your body right now, the processes running beneath the surface that nobody talks about, consider subscribing. And if this is already making something click for you, tap the like button. It helps more people find this information. What most people don't realize is that the majority of exercise, even excellent, consistent exercise, happens in an insulin-elevated state. You have a pre-workout drink, a banana before the gym, a small meal an hour before your walk. None of those choices are wrong in a general sense, but they all raise insulin. And while insulin is elevated, your body's ability to pull from stored fat, especially visceral belly fat, is meaningfully reduced. You are burning calories, but you are primarily burning the fuel you just gave your body. The fat stays where it is, waiting for a hormonal environment that never quite arrives. Fasted walking doesn't work through effort. It works through timing. It creates the specific hormonal conditions: low insulin, low glycogen, and the elevated fat-releasing signals that your body needs to reach into its deepest reserves. Let me give you a clear picture of this. Think of your body's energy system like a kitchen with two pantries. The first pantry is right next to the stove. It's stocked with quick-access ingredients, easy to grab, easy to use. That's your glycogen, your blood glucose. Whenever food arrives, this pantry gets restocked first, and your body cooks from it by default. And it's convenient, it's fast, it's preferred. The second pantry is in the back room, harder to reach. Your body doesn't go there when the front pantry is full. But when the front pantry runs low, after a night of fasting, after glycogen has been quietly used up while you slept, your body walks to the back room. It opens the door, and it starts pulling from what's stored there. Not that back pantry is your fat, and your belly fat specifically is one of the first things your body reaches for when the conditions are right. A fasted morning walk empties the front pantry just enough to make that backroom trip happen. Not through willpower, not through restriction, through biology. Now let's talk about what the research actually shows, because the science here is more specific than most people realize. Scientists once believed that fat burned fairly uniformly during exercise, that the timing of meals relative to movement didn't significantly change which energy sources the body preferred. The calorie equation was considered the primary variable. Move more, eat less, lose fat. But research over the past 2 decades has added a much more detailed picture. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition found that individuals who walked in a fasted state burned significantly more fat during the walk than those who walked after eating, even when total calorie expenditure was matched. The difference wasn't in how hard they worked. It was in what their body chose to burn. Research from the Journal of Physiology showed that low glycogen levels, precisely the state you're in after an overnight fast, activate fat oxidation genes in muscle tissue. When your muscles sense that carbohydrate stores are running low, they switch on molecular machinery that processes fat more efficiently. It is an adaptive response. Your body, detecting a fuel shift, upgrades its fat-burning capacity. So the 2020 analysis, focused specifically on visceral fat, found that moderate aerobic exercise performed in a low insulin state produced meaningfully greater reductions in abdominal fat than the same exercise in a fed state, with identical total calorie intake across both groups. Same movement, same calories, different hormonal environment, different result. This is not an obscure finding. It has been replicated across different age groups, different populations, different exercise formats. The pattern is consistent. The hormonal state you exercise in shapes which fuel your body burns. And for visceral belly fat, a fasted morning walk creates the most favorable conditions your daily routine can offer. Here's something worth understanding about the body's design. In visceral fat, the fat that accumulates around your organs is not passive tissue. It is metabolically active. It releases its own signals into your bloodstream. And it is particularly sensitive to 2 hormonal shifts: a drop in insulin and a rise in the catecholamines, hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline that increase during fasted exercise. When both of those shifts happen simultaneously, visceral fat essentially receives 2 separate signals to release stored fatty acids. It is being unlocked from 2 directions at once. A fasted morning walk is one of the very few daily habits that reliably triggers both signals together. If you've ever felt, after a fasted walk, a particular kind of energy that felt different from caffeine, a steadier, quieter alertness, that is what fat-derived fuel feels like in your system. your brain and muscles running on fatty acids rather than glucose. Clean, sustained, without the spike and drop. Your body has been capable of this all along. It simply needed the right conditions to switch into it. Let me give you the practical side of this clearly and precisely, because the timing, the intensity, and a few specific details determine whether this process works fully or whether you get most of the way there and miss the window. Walk within 30 to 45 minutes of waking before anything but plain water. When you wake up, drink a full glass of water, 300 to 500 milliliters. You've been breathing and existing for 8 hours without fluid. Your blood volume is slightly reduced. Proper hydration allows your circulatory system to transport free fatty acids from your fat cells to your working muscles efficiently. Without it, the process is sluggish. Walk within 30 to 45 minutes of waking because your morning cortisol, the alertness hormone that naturally peaks in the first hour after waking, also stimulates fat release. So it works alongside the low insulin environment to send an additional signal to your fat cells. Walking during this window means two fat-mobilizing forces are active simultaneously. After about 60 minutes of wakefulness, cortisol begins its natural decline. The window narrows. Black coffee before your walk is acceptable for most people. It does not raise insulin meaningfully in a plain form. But if coffee increases your appetite and leads to eating before the walk, hold it until after. Walk at a gentle, conversational pace for 30 to 45 minutes. This is the detail that most people get wrong, and it matters more than almost anything else in this process. At moderate intensity, where you're breathing slightly harder than at rest but could still speak a full sentence, your body's primary fuel source is fat. Researchers call this Zone 2, and it corresponds to roughly 55 to 65% of your maximum heart rate. When you push harder than this, when your breathing becomes labored, when you're working to maintain the pace, your body shifts toward carbohydrates as its primary fuel. Fat metabolism is slower. It cannot keep up with high-intensity energy demand. So the body bypasses it. Faster is not better here. A brisk, comfortable walk sustained for 30 to 45 minutes will burn significantly more fat than a harder effort that shifts your body out of the fat oxidizing zone. This is counterintuitive for people who associate effort with results. But the biology is clear. Do not eat for at least 30 minutes after finishing your walk. When you return from a fasted walk, your body is still in an active state of fat oxidation. Your free fatty acids are still circulating, while your muscles are still processing them. The enzymes responsible for breaking down fat do not stop the moment your feet stop moving. They continue their work for a period afterward, and your muscles continue to pull from circulating fatty acids. Eating immediately, especially carbohydrates, raises insulin and ends that process. Waiting 30 minutes extends the fat burning period without requiring any additional effort from you. You have already done the work. Let the biology finish what it started. When you do eat, keep your first meal low in refined carbohydrates. Eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt without added sugar, nuts, vegetables with olive oil. Foods that raise insulin gradually rather than sharply. A high sugar or high carbohydrate first meal can blunt a hormone called adiponectin, which is released from fat cells and promotes continued fat metabolism and reduced inflammation. Preserving that signal costs nothing. It simply requires a small shift in what you reach for first. Be consistent rather than perfect. 3 to 4 fasted walks per week is enough. Metabolic adaptation, your body's increasing efficiency at oxidizing fat, builds over weeks of repeated practice. Your muscles develop more mitochondria, the cellular structures that process fat for fuel. Your fat cells become more responsive to fat-releasing hormones. Your body, over time, becomes better at doing what you are asking it to do. This is not a short-term intervention. It is a biological education. And like all education, it rewards consistency over intensity. 3 mornings per week for several months. Me will produce measurable changes in visceral fat, insulin sensitivity, and metabolic flexibility that sporadic, intense effort simply cannot match. There are a few things worth being careful about before you begin. Anything other than plain water before the walk, including a small snack, a splash of milk and coffee, a protein shake, raises insulin and reduces the fat-burning benefit. The fasted window requires a clean fast. If you have type 2 diabetes managed with insulin or certain medications, or a personal history of low blood sugar episodes, please speak with your doctor before changing your morning exercise routine. Fasted exercise can lower blood glucose meaningfully in some individuals, and that requires awareness and possibly monitoring. For most healthy people, this is well tolerated, but your body is your own, and any new habit deserves your attention. If you feel dizzy, shaky, or unusually fatigued during a fasted walk, stop and eat something. Your body is communicating. Listen to it. Now let me step back and show you the larger picture of why this matters. Visceral fat, and the fat that accumulates around your organs, is not simply a cosmetic concern. It produces its own inflammatory compounds. It is associated with elevated cardiovascular risk, in reduced insulin sensitivity, and over time, increased likelihood of metabolic disease. The research across long-term population studies is consistent. People who maintained lower levels of visceral fat into their 50s and 60s experienced significantly better health outcomes across nearly every major category. And the interventions that most reliably reduced visceral fat were not extreme. They were moderate, consistent, hormonal in their logic, rather than purely caloric. A 30 to 45-minute walk before breakfast 3 or 4 times per week, sustained over months, creates a hormonal environment that your body was biologically designed to respond to. It is not a hack. It is not a shortcut. It is your own biology, working exactly as it was built to work, given the conditions it needs. Your belly fat is not permanent. Weight is not a reflection of failure or weakness. It is a biological response to an environment, a hormonal environment, that can be changed. Gently, gradually, consistently, small habits, applied with understanding, compound in ways that larger, unsustained efforts rarely do. Your body is not working against you. It has been waiting for the right signal. What surprised you most about how this process works? Drop it in the comments. And if you've already been walking fasted in the morning, I'd love to hear whether you've noticed a difference. If you enjoy discovering the quiet science happening inside your body, the systems running right now beneath the surface, subscribe for more. New videos every week. In the next video, we'll explore something even more fascinating. What happens inside your brain during a morning walk, and why just 20 minutes of fasted movement may reshape your mental clarity more than almost any other daily habit. Your body is not failing you. It has been waiting for the right information. Now you have it.